Okay, you can start. Maybe you can blind the slide. Yeah. Hello and welcome to our session today. So I'm going to come closer to here. Thank you so much for the audience that's already come here, as well as who joining online. Hello to you. Before we begin, I would like to say hello to my colleague Josephine. Hello, Josephine. Can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you.
Hello. How are you doing today, Josephine?
I'm fine, thank you. It's morning here in Sweden, so I've gotten up. I have some coffee here in my EduWiki conference mug,
Oh,
and I'm
amazing.
happy to join you.
Thank you so much for joining our session today, Josephine. So, guys, this is going to be a quite, casual discussion that we have. We are going to share how knowledge equity and also sharing experience from the partnerships perspective of me in East and Southeast Asia Pacific, as well as, Josephine will share her experience in the context of Europe, particularly in Sweden. So, allow me to begin our presentation today. Can you first slide, please? Yes. Driving knowledge equity, fostering partnerships for collaborative learning and nationwide engagement. So, this is our speakers, me and Josephine, just both of us. So we hope that we can have a fruitful discussions and also sharing experience on how we can foster the knowledge equity within the Wikimedia movement. We already pivot 2 points of discussions for today. The first one is future engagement to support knowledge equity with the movement through partnerships, and Wikipedia belongs to everyone, creating local digital activities across an entire nation. Maybe, Josephine, can you share your opinion about how we engage public, particularly in according to your experience, and introduce them to the Wikimedia movement? Do you mind to share your thought about that?
Yes, of course, I think this is highly important and relevant for the future of our movement. I think it's safe to say that we know that, at least in our country and our part of the world, we need to broaden the engagement and connections with the greater public, because we want even more equal knowledge on our platforms, and therefore we need more participants that can share that knowledge that they have. And for us in Sweden, we have realized that partnerships is a highly relevant way of doing this, because we know that there are organizations and associations that gather people and that have lots and lots of knowledge. And why then not cooperate with them, aiming at fruitful partnerships with other organizations? Um, and We in Sweden have over the years done a few different projects aiming at this. For example, we have been running the Wikigap campaign, of course, engaging um, the greater public in writing articles about women on Wikipedia to decrease the gender gap. But currently, we are trying to find new ways of doing activities together with different organizations all over Sweden. And we have very broad target groups in this project that I'm leading right now, called Wikipedia for all of Sweden. And they are older people, they are younger people, and they are non-male. which is female, non-binary, and other genders. So we have a project that takes place in 4 regions in Sweden, from the south to the very north, that aims at collaborating to get more knowledge and more people onto our platforms.
That is amazing. Speaking of partnerships, Josephine, I've been around for 5 years working on the partnership side of the house in Southeast Asia region. And we see that there's a lot of alignments across organizations to Wikimedia movements. And the most important thing that we need to do is how we connect the dots between the priority of the communities that we have and also the opportunities that open through the organizations across the regions. So one of the examples that I want to share, oh, by the way, yesterday we have a UNESCO director from that covers Southeast Asia region coming in, and we see that the most important thing to establish this partnership is communication. Listen to each other, because sometimes we don't know what is the UNESCO priorities, and the UNESCO haven't heard about the movement and also the activities of the communities in the regions. So my question, Josephine, have you encountered the same similar situation perhaps? And what is your opinion on building communication between external organizations and the movement itself?
Yes, we want to build cooperation and collaboration, and we have found out that as an organization we are quite unknown, which is of course a hurdle. Everyone knows about Wikipedia, but not that many knows of Wikimedia or Wikimedia Sweden. So we have gone out very, very broad to different organizations in every part of society. It's from the GLAM institutions that we already have close partnerships with, but trying to find new ones, building on old models. But we have also gone to NGOs, from the Scout movement to a tourist organization to different organizations gathering older people, because we want to find these new bonds with organizations that we might not have been thinking about. Uh, so those are like, we have said, hello, we exist, we are Wikimedia Sverige, and we want to engage with you. And we can do that in in numerous ways, but we know that you are important, and you have both people and knowledge that is important to us. And that is quite interesting, because when people hear about us and what we do and how we can benefit from each other, they are all very, very positive. So that's always a pleasure to getting in contact with new people.
This is very similar to the experience that I've engaged in Southeast Asia regions. Basically, there is some kind of lack of understanding on how the movement work, to be honest. Most of the people in the regions already aware of Wikipedia, but they have no idea who write the Wikipedia articles, as simple as that. And this is our, we can say our job to educate them. It's, sometimes it's quite difficult because we need times, right, on to explain how Wikipedia works, what is the communities, and what is this Wikimedia Sisters project. But again, we need the patience, and after we build a trust-based relationship, the collaborations that we have with these organizations will, I hope, going to be very sustainable. And Josephine, this is very interesting because even though we already established a really good collaboration with the external organizations that is outside our ecosystem, sometimes we need public awareness. What kind of public awareness activity that you've done in Sweden to make people outside the movement aware of what we've been doing, the collaborations and the activities that we've done?
Yes, that is very important, as you say, because we think we need to raise awareness, just as you're saying, about who we are and what we do. And through the project that I'm running, we want to reach the local citizens through local media. So we get in contact with the local radio stations, the local newspapers, when we have an activity that is um, fit for writing about, and that can be anything. Um, some of you might have heard that. Well, me and my colleague had a presentation yesterday about a project called 100,000 image memories, and that has been cooperating with Wikipedia for all of Sweden. So we have held the organization's first metadata editathon, where we have lots and lots of pictures that we have uploaded from the Nordic Museum in Sweden. And there is lacking so much information about these images. But we found a collection that comes from Saab, which is an aircraft manufacturer in Sweden, in one of the regions that we're working with. So we wanted to try, can we gather metadata on these images? What's on them? What do we see? Who are these people? What are they doing in the images, etc.? So we contacted the local Air Force Museum, who in turn contacted two organizations, two small historical societies that were Saab veterans that have been working in the factory, and a historical Air Force society locally. So we met at the Air Force Museum, and these men, all men that had been working on Saab, in their late 70s, 80s, of course, the target group, elderly people. And before that, we also sent the images to the local newspaper. So the local newspaper made, this image extra article online, broadcasting or showing up lots of the images and even linking to Wikimedia Commons and the category of the images. And when we were then holding this editathon, metadata editathon, and we put up an image saying, what is this? And then one of the participants said, well, that is me. Because a friend of mine saw me in the newspaper, in the local media, and told me about this event. So I came here to tell you about what's on these images. And we think that is very funny, of course, and very rewarding to see that we share our content, our material from Wikimedia Commons in the local media, and we get 1,000 views per image on Wikimedia Commons in that article, which is quite a lot from that. And someone even shows up after seeing the article on one of our events. So that's how we try to work. And also when we held a local Wikigap on the 8th of March in Umeå, in the Women's Museum, Women's Historical Museum. We had the local radio station, which is part of the public service, the national. So in the daily news for all over Sweden, they pick up events that happen locally. And today at noon, or that day at noon, they took the interview of Wikigap. So they took this local from our event, local media radio station, and broadcast it nationally on the national radio news at 12 o'clock.
This is amazing. This is amazing, Josephine. Oh my goodness. See, the role of media is also important in the context of this easy as well. During my experience in supporting Wikisource Love's Manuscript project that already been discussed, and you can see the manuscripts, original manuscript coming from Indonesia in the plenary hall. We start thinking on how to inform the public about this project because it is important. We want new contributors, particularly into the Wikimedia Sisters project ecosystem. In this case, is Wikisource. Then we engage with one of the media group in Indonesia called Tempo, and they have access to YouTube channel, their own YouTube channel, because the audience in Southeast Asia is pretty different. Most of them are young generation, quote unquote. We're talking about millennials and also Gen Z that's more keen into YouTube, social media, and they have the platform to do that. During the coverage of the rescue mission in Bali, Indonesia at that time, we had approximately 1,600 views of that YouTube video that discuss about Wikisource Love's Manuscript mission in Bali. So this is very essential that sometimes we are working on our own project and believe that is going to achieve the predetermined results, but informing is the another part because through these informations, more and more people will be coming to become contributors. So, Josephine, this is very interesting, and I want to hear more from you on the connecting the dots part. You mentioned about the story of connecting with Saab and the Air Force Museum. In my opinions, if we are engaging with one partners, it will open up another doors. What's your opinion about that, Josephine?
Yes, I definitely think so. And after this event we had at the Air Force Museum around Saab images, we have had an example to show other potential partners. So now we have found another batch of these historical images, and we have found the agriculture university. And these images are from the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And we have one batch from the Agricultural University. So now we have reached out to them saying, we have done this in with Saab, can we now do it with you? So we have a concrete example. And also now we have the connection in the city of Linköping with the Air Force Museum that will help us hold even more events because we will invite different project partners from this project, people that we have met locally, but just on one occasion. So we will invite them again and have them plan even more activities. And then the Air Force Museum have offered to host us for that event. So that is also fruitful. So we can show both good examples from an activity, but we can also build on that actual connection, just as you said, connecting different dots. And I think this, we will call it the Wikipedia for all of Sweden Day, inviting these different project partners, and then they will also connect the dots between them. And they come from, well, we have one from a university, we have from museums, we have from NGOs, we have from the Statistical Agency of Sweden, and from different partners that we have been doing things with. And now they can come together and talk about their different experiences on working with the Wikimedia movement and the Wikimedia projects. And I don't know if I've said it, but we mainly work with Wikipedia, Wikimedia Commons, and Wikidata in this project.
That's
And
amazing.
of course, that is interesting for them as well, for the different partners.
Exactly, and I love the way that we can connect one partner and other partner that they have no interaction at all, and the movement is the catalyst for these connections, Josephine. Now, what is the challenge? We already discuss about the scenario when everything goes well, but sometimes there is a challenge that we encounter when interacting with partners, particularly from organizations that not focusing in a non-profit world, for example, or maybe misunderstanding and their perceptions toward Wikipedia in the case. Have you experienced such challenge, or maybe you can share more about the challenges that you encounter during interacting with these partners?
Yes. Um, of course, there are some obstacles, um, and one I think because we want to engage people over time and make them feel that they can do Wikimedia platform related activities on their own. So we have to strengthen them. But we found it difficult to keep that engagement over time without putting in very much effort. It's hard to get people to stand on their own 2 feet around our platforms. So we have to hold them in their hand for a very long time and come back again and again. And I think this is a matter of both insecurity around the platforms as well as maybe around the community, that they don't know how everything works. And they might struggle when they try to do things on their own and they don't know why something fails or what they have done wrong. And maybe they don't have understanding from other partners around them, like why should you work with this? But creating a long-term freestanding um, activities or having them work on their own. I think that's one struggle we have encountered, and for that we need to find the right person, and I think that's key. And it's very difficult to know beforehand when you will find that person that engages and gives from their own time and has the self confidence also to try and do things on their own. And um, yeah, in Sweden we call these people with that kind of engagement fire souls that give from their soul with all they have. So they're burning spirit, but they're very difficult to find. You don't know where to find them before you start reaching out to masses of people, and then you will find these ones. Uh, Another hurdle is, of course, the tools, introducing people to new tools, new platforms, learning, as I said, not only the technical aspects of it, like how does Commons actually work? Why can't I upload an MP4 video? Why? How do I add the correct metadata? We have been using the ISA tool, which of course is great from some aspects, but when it comes to adding structured data to Commons on images. But if a Wikidata term doesn't exist, you not only have to know the ISA tool to add that Wikidata term, you also have to know Wikidata to add that object on Wikidata in order to label the image with it. So then you have to know several tools. And that requires quite a high technical skill. So for our metadata editathons, we have been two Wikimedians that have that knows the tool, and the others are speaking. So we are running the workshop in that sense. But it also makes it difficult for them to then go home after the workshop and continue this work. So that is something we will also have to continue our work with. Um, and of course, there are also some clashes between the logic of the platforms and new volunteers that come and are very, I'm sure you all know this, people come and they have this topic that they really want to write a Wikipedia article about. And they think they have knowledge and okay sources, and then one of the platform volunteers rejects it and says, well, you have to go back to your sandbox and make this article better. And it's not always, it might depend on which which volunteer on the platforms they that is patrolling their article. Like, why did my friend get their article through and I did not? And they don't understand why. And also, like, why can't I upload this image from this book? Why is it removed from Commons? Why does it say I can't have it? Why can't I just take my mom's picture and upload it? And yeah, all of these uh, regular um, problems that people encounter in connection to our platforms.
This is very interesting because, well, my perspective, Josephine, is coming from the partnership side of the house. Um, when we are engaging with partners, sometimes it's very there. We can feel the excitement in the beginning, but if we cannot maintain this excitement, all went cold. The conversation that we had initially, we already, okay, let's do the low hanging fruit collaboration that we can do together with you and also with the affiliates on the ground. But in order to maintain this communication, it's sometimes quite challenging because if we are engaging with a for-profit organization, people comes and people goes, right? I've talked to this person in the beginning, but unfortunately, 6 or 7 months after that, he or she is relocated or resigned, then we need to start all over again. That's why in engaging partners, it requires patience. So this is very interesting as well in my region, that another challenge that I face with supporting communities in partnership conversations, because the community's participations is essential when building partnerships, because then the spearhead of the Wikimedia movement in the respective countries is trust. Most of government-related organizations in Southeast Asia prefer to work together with Wikimedia foundations instead of affiliates for the sake of authority, stamp. Well, this is some kind of bureaucratic hurdles that we encounter. That's why communication, again, is very essential. I will introduce the local affiliates in the Philippines or Malaysia to the authority so that we come together as a movement. We work together as a movement and we build the trust, and we just in WMF only in supporting mode for that. Because sometimes the initiative who comes from the community itself is very, very innovative. Another example coming from Malaysia, actually, our Wikimedian of the Year, Taufik. Yes, he's a really great person. So he took an initiative by utilizing Wiktionary to preserve endangered Malaysian language. The language is called Mandarin only spoken by 200 or 300 people in the country, throughout the country. And maybe in 10 or 20 years, it's gonna be extinct. And he managed to see the potential of Wiktionary to preserve it. He single-handedly create an effort and build the relationship with the Malaysian government and also the universities, right, in order to open up their mind. There are Wikimedia sister projects that's going to be beneficial to preserve this endangered language. Josephine, what your take on that? Have you seen some innovative approach within the context of maybe in the Scandinavian region coming from the Wikimedian volunteers?
Yes, that is a good question, and of course there are lots of innovative um ideas happening from the movement. I just wanted to come back a little bit more to another issue that I've encountered in the cooperations with others, and that is that different logics can clash. A logic from another, from for example, from one of these small historical societies with the images. When they look at our image material and they say, oh, that's a bad picture. We have so many more good pictures. We shouldn't waste our time on telling you what's on this image because it's poor image quality, so it's not worth that much. And for us, of course, we don't have any image like that in on Wikimedia Commons. So for us, it's very important to know what's on them. So their different logics clash. But then coming back to your question, we do have some innovative examples in Sweden. We have people working with some of the open knowledge tools and trying to connect, for example, OpenStreetMap and Wikidata, and trying to put together different like spotting out things on coordinates to visualize Wikidata. For example, all of the schools in Sweden, we have gotten the what's it called, the geographical data on where they are located, all of the coordinates for the schools in Sweden on Wikidata, and they have been mapped through OpenStreetMap to visualize where is my nearest school, for example, or where how can I see all of the schools in Sweden. And when
You can start your live.
Hello, I can't see the screen. I can't see the slide. Hello. Hello. Are you there?
We can see you. The slides are on.
You can't see me. I can't see the slides either. I can't see the slides. Hello. 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 I can't see the slides. Can I share from my end? Huh? Hello. I can't see the slides.
Can you see the slides?
I can't see it. I can't see the slides.
Yes.
Can I share from my end? Hello? I can't see the slide. Can I share from my end? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes, you can. Okay, you can see my screen now.
Yes,
Okay.
please go ahead.
My name is, should I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay, my name is Achukwu Onyejen. I'm the founder of Wikilove Names. Today, we are going to know how to conserve names. How can we conserve names? Communities attach a lot of importance to the names they bear, both individual names and names of their communities. In Africa, there are varied reasons for this. The names are so valued, any attempt to change community names without any agreement of the entire community always leads to crisis. Most names are derived from forefathers, rivers, streams, deities, hills, markets, and other landmarks. While families and individuals usually take names after family members, market days, known heroes and heroines, among other important institutions. In addition, family name their children to symbolize their experience in life or circumstances surrounding the birth of such child or children or deceased family members, time or place of birth. There are over thousands of names not captured anywhere, especially the ancient names are those and O's that are going to extinction. Most of the young generations, especially youths, are not aware of these names. And worse still, if it is not captured, it will be worse if it is not captured now. What data are we going to present to the generations unborn? Have we talked about this? We are bridging this gap between ancient names and the young generations, and in the same time, solve the problem of low participation of African language contribution in contributing to African Wiktionaries as an online educational resource and creation of contents in Wiktionary platforms. Current milestone, we've completed the maiden edition last year. That was in November last year. Then we had 2 pieces of training. It was hybrid, online and physical training. And there was 2 editathon challenge to ascertain the level of understanding and know the created contents in order to post the created contents on Igbo Wiktionary platform. The outcome of the maiden edition, the outcome 1, we have 2 pieces of training, 2 editathons and 1 contest. We have 54 editors. They created 2.3K pages on Igbo Wiktionary, edited 2.32K pages, and we had total edit of 2.87K. The source is Outreach Dashboard. We got this data in 1st March 2023. Join us in tracing your cultural heritage and Enriching Wiktionary. Thank you so much. I still remember my humble self, Achuku Onyejen. Thank you, Dalo. Merci beaucoup.
All right. Hello and welcome to this session on live streaming editing. I'm Jan Einali, or user Einali, and I have a panel with me today who's hopefully going to do most of the talking, and I'll just get us started here. So let's do a brief round of introduction, and please tell me like who you are and what your main topic of streaming, like what are your streams about? And let's start with you, Sandra.
Yeah. Hi everyone. So my name is Sandra Hobson Sock on Wikipedia or Wikimedia, and I've been streaming. Actually, I haven't been streaming that much this year, but previously I've been streaming mostly a few live edit sessions for both Wikipedia and Wikisource. So doing those platforms, but also we've been streaming a few panel talks regarding different topics around Wikimedia, and also I'm saying we because I've been streaming mostly together with a friend of mine, and we did a live session also from our Wikipedia camp last summer, which was really fun. So that was more of a, I don't know, like almost talk show like with both me and the other organizers, but also camp members who were very new to Wikipedia before. So that was fun. Yes, can I hand over to Rebecca?
Yes, of course.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca O'Neill and I'm based in Ireland. So I started live streaming during the pandemic when all in-person events went away very quickly. And I did it for about 2 years throughout it, much like Sandra. It's kind of dropped off a little bit as I think not as many people are accessible to stay at home. You know, they don't have lots of time to watch many kind of long form streams. But a lot of mine were quite instructive. They were aimed at people who were interested in how editors work, how they're attracted to particular topics, how they go about editing an article, where they find sources. But oftentimes I found it was other editors like Jan or Nicholas or Liam would often keep me company, which was great. And I did 1 or 2, I suppose, very long form streams where it was a bit of a challenge to try and edit as many articles as possible, one of which I did for charity, which was great fun.
And Mahir?
So.
Sure. Hi, my name is Mahir. I go by user Mahir256 on Wikidata and the Bengali Wikisource. My streams, which I started last summer, sort of in the because I was able to allocate some time each week to do so, had a very specific focus, which is essentially to first to promote the idea of editing a specific subfield of Wikidata, which are lexemes, basically items for words, if you will. And more specifically, to use those items for words to try to generate sentences the way that we might expect for something like abstract Wikipedia. The idea being that, you know, we have this objective of, you know, trying to generate text using Wikidata items and lexemes. Let's try to make that possible. That's the thing that I was trying to showcase for on my streams. And it has been about a month or so since I've last streamed, but ordinarily this would be a more regular thing. But yes, that is my main focus with my streams.
All right, and just quickly for myself, I've been mostly streaming, editing Wikidata, me and user Abbe98, Albin Larsson, or a bit over 100 streams. So starting to get into some sort of rhythm there, but we have a summer vacation right now. You all alluded a little bit to it, but sort of like what got you started in actually going from just editing to press the record and stream button, go live to get it go out there? And let's take the other way around. Let's start with you, Mahir.
Sure. So first, I guess the motivation for my starting to stream is an extension of this idea of trying to make something very abstract, or I mean, it is abstract Wikipedia after all, but making that a bit more tangible, a bit more concrete as far as what it is we can try to make accomplish. It was interesting from the end result, I think, was that these streams not only were productive from the standpoint of me as someone who's trying to program these things to happen, but if I'm targeting a language of the language of someone in the audience, like the native language of someone who's watching the stream, then it's even more inspiring for them, I think, and that's the sort of contribution that I wanted to encourage, which I don't think just simply editing would do. So I thought like the actual live demonstration of something as revolutionary as what I was working on, I think would have been more impactful than just saying, okay, after the fact, this is what was done. Yeah. Maybe Rebecca has other ideas as to what gets them into streaming.
Well, it's more about what I'm able to do and Wikidata and that sort of thing. I am, I suppose, a user light when it comes to things like that. But I suppose initially I was quite structured. In the first 12 that I did were very much mirrored what I would do in a series of workshops. So I actually archived those 12. I downloaded them from Twitch and put them up on the Wikimedia Community Ireland YouTube. So it was very much start here, how you create an account, how you might find an easy article to find a way in, so like a stub. An awful lot of what because it mirrored, I suppose, a lot of the work that I do within education, I kind of went for Irish topics, so places, biographies, historical biographies, but then I would do a historical biography, creating one from scratch, and then do a contemporary person to show how you would approach writing a biography of a living person. So it was quite, I suppose once I got to the 12, I was like, okay, what now? So at that point, they became a little bit looser. And it was as people, mostly on Twitter, as was, requesting, how do you go about doing X? How do you approach this type of article? So I would look to, and I would do very simple things, like if it was Wiki Loves Earth or Wiki Loves Monuments, I would show people how to use the platform, and I would pin, that small amount of the stream. So it was quite functional, I suppose, for me. But then when I wasn't archiving them or thinking about, okay, I'm going to put this out as a short form video somewhere, it was just a little bit of a stream of consciousness and me just editing. And that was, depending on how many people were watching, could get a little bit kind of silly. They probably realize that I do an awful lot of dark muttering to myself when I'm editing Wikipedia. And then I would do a little bit of, and this is how you go about finding an image, or I found this image and this brought me to this article, or, I was eating a certain food and I realized the article was terrible. So it was a lot more kind of, as I move around Wikipedia as an individual rather than the project coordinator of Wikimedia Community Ireland. That's Sandra.
So I got into streaming through gaming, actually. We have referred to that being maybe more common of a topic. And then because I started editing on Wikipedia through so I mentioned the Wikipedia camp. I started by chance finding an invitation to do you want to come, learn how to edit on Wikipedia? And of course I did, because I was I knew that it was possible. I just didn't know how. So I went to that camp. I then, from that year on, became part of, that was the first time the camp was held. And it was a camp directed at people who identify as women, because of the shortage of people who identify as women editing on Wikipedia. And then I became part of organizing that together with one of the organizers from that year. So a lot of my, how I've approached Wikipedia, I'm also kind of an editor light, but I do a lot of reaching out and helping others sort of get over the threshold from never having dared to edit to trying to edit. And that's part of what I brought with me to streaming, because as you mentioned, Rebecca, I also got into it during the pandemic. And when the opportunities to be there doing oh my goodness, now I lost the word for skrivstuga in English.
Editathon.
Yeah, editathon. Yeah. So I'm based in Sweden. I forgot to mention that. So when that opportunity disappeared, and I am registered as a helper or fadder on Swedish Wikipedia, but I noticed how much more difficult it is to answer certain questions in text because people will ask you, and it's just more nuanced than saying do this or do that. And I find that when you have a streaming situation, even though the other people are asking you things in text, you can present an answer that becomes way more nuanced and wider and broader. And you can then also explain, because one thing I've noticed, going to answer questions in different scenarios, is that while it is easy to edit, and I do try to mention that, what can be difficult are like what the things that are easy are usually the things that people are most afraid of, which have to do with the technology. Like, just push the button, write the things. Those are the things that people tend to be scared of. But what's usually the most difficult is what belongs here? How do I solve this so that I stay neutral? Like, what are the demands on Wikipedia or even Wikisource? Because we have like a huge set of agreements on how do we treat these platforms. And those are the things that are difficult to reply to when it comes to someone asking you a question where they sort of jump in and go, the first question is like, how do I create a whole new article for this little YouTuber? And you go, oh, wait, time out. Let me now direct you to this, and this. And that became so much easier in a streaming situation. So my aims with streaming were the same as my aims usually when I'm part of different initiatives, other initiatives on having to do with Wikipedia, is to reach out to those who are just getting started and to help them have a good first starting experience with Wikipedia or Wikisource or Wikidata. So yeah.
That's great.
Jan, how
Yeah.
I'm happy to you also.
Well, it was also during the pandemic. So it was with the Wikipedia Weekly live stream, and then sort of that kicked off something else as well, wanting to do something with Wikidata, because I'm really fascinated by Wikidata as a project. So that's where it sort of got going. I was also already doing the Swedish Wikipedia podcast, and I was thinking about doing that recorded as a live stream as well. We were using software to record it remotely already. So like just turning into that to be public was also a small step. I see that we have a question in the chat here. I'm going to kind of come back to you, Lucy, because we were all onto something, all three of you here. And that was like, with what got you started was also possibly something that was feeling rewarding or something that you achieved. Do you have any like concrete examples of like during a stream that you felt something, oh, here I really struck on something that I particularly couldn't have made just on Wiki in text? And feel free, anyone who comes up with the first here.
Well, maybe I could just partly reiterate. So both having those kinds of sessions where someone can ask you something and you can provide a response that is more nuanced, but also something that we have done that I felt was very rewarding is to, and this isn't edit related, it's more to do with the threshold that I mentioned for people to get into editing. We did a couple of panels talking about where we had like a friend who was had never edited on Wikipedia, and we had her be a guest and ask questions that like as a person who has never edited, what is it that sort of, what would you like to know to be able to get started? And that then could also include the chat and maybe also lessen it can help the chat also to start thinking of like, what is actually stopping me? If I've never edited, what is it that's that's sort of scaring me or that's hindering me. So as with all conversations, they can lead to more thoughts than, just if you just try to summarize something in text yourself, trying to get into the mindset of who was I, what hindered me.
I guess I'll. No, if you don't mind, yeah, I guess if you're asking about like any specific, tangible outcomes from rewards, if you will, I'd say that those are largely dependent on the audience that I have during a particular stream, and obviously Jan, as someone who's been part of these audiences, very well that whenever I'm able to have a nice conversation about various aspects of the language that you speak, it's rewarding. I mean, first of all, it's rewarding to me as far as my understanding of the language goes, and how that could be applied in other ways. But also when developing the software that to generate sentences with the lexemes, there ends up being a lot more progress on the languages of those audience members. So if they go back to the repositories and they see the code that I've tried to document to the best of my ability, it tends to be a lot better for those languages because of the amount of time that's been spent on stream working on. There's obviously going to be improvement outside of them, but I think just the overall development of a particular language's ability to generate sentences is a nice indicator of how much of a reward has been got from having very good audience members in that respect.
Jump in then. I suppose I had kind of two different types of rewards. Some of them were personal and some of them were related to the job. So with the job, it was slightly more straightforward, as people would be on Twitter or Facebook and they would come across a link to the live stream. And, they would have perhaps followed Wikimedia Community Ireland or been aware of us, but perhaps didn't necessarily, they didn't have full confidence of what like a virtual workshop would be like or what I'm like as a facilitator. So I don't know whether the streams helped or hindered, but we definitely got some people who then contacted me kind of saying, oh, I saw your stream and obviously I made sense. And they were like, you could do a workshop with us. So there was a bit of that sort of soft connections that were made. But then in 2020, which is so far ago that I've kind of forgotten, I did a whole year of what's it called now? Well, 100 wiki days, but I did 366 because it was a leap year. Of course, I chose a leap year. So I was writing an article every day on Wikipedia anyway, creating a new one. So I found that I mixed up my list an awful lot because it turns out I pick very repetitive subjects if I'm left to my own devices, and probably wouldn't be very exciting for people to watch. But then I started getting kind of suggestions from fellow Wikimedians who'd be like, oh, this exists on Swedish or this exists in French. Would you think about translating it into English? And I was able to then use my position of privilege. I mean, I'm not an admin or anything like that, but I'm I suppose a trusted editor in that when I create an article, I have had a very good track. Nothing has ever been deleted on me. It's only ever been merged. So I was able to leverage that. And it also led to me being able to interact with initiatives like Black Lives Matters, where that was a very new wiki project on English, and it was facing not an awful lot of pushback, but an amount of pushback. And I was able to support some of the fellow editors who were writing about international topics, but then create a lot of the Irish topics related to it, and those still persist. So that's probably the best legacy, I would say, from that first year.
All right, then let's get to Lucy's question here. Did you all have followings on socials that you took into to your streams? Or perhaps I can even expand on it. Like, where are your viewers coming from?
This is just a really short answer, which is that I do most of my advertising on Telegram. So there are Telegram groups for Wikidata and specifically for lexicographical data and abstract Wikipedia. That's where most of my viewership comes from. I do not typically advertise this on my regular profiles. It's usually just through Telegram.
For me, and it was we since both me and my friend we have like started through gaming, then yes, we did advertise. And since also most of what we do was directed at very new people, hopefully people, well, not hopefully, but mainly people who haven't edited at all, then yes, trying to reach people meant using other channels as well.
Yeah, I was definitely the same. Twitter as it was, slightly more amenable to that sort of stuff, 3 years ago. I didn't use Facebook quite as much because, the audience on Facebook is generally, your family and very close friends, and they're not necessarily going to become dyed-in-the-wool Wikipedians. If they haven't done it by now, after a decade of me being an active Wikipedian, it's probably not going to happen at this point. But I would also, I didn't do much gaming streaming, but that would be a huge portion of my Venn diagram of contacts on Twitter in particular. And I would know quite a number of people involved in, say, local sci-fi conventions. So I was able to there were people who were already immersed, watching out for interesting or different Twitch streams that were coming up to fill in their lunchtime. So I know an awful lot of acquaintances more than close friends started watching on their lunch break, because I would often do it at 1 o'clock Irish time, and it meant that they would just, a lot of people would be like, I have you on my phone, you're on my kitchen counter while I'm so there was a little bit of just I suppose me being I won't say background noise, but I suppose being an accompaniment to, as they tried to mix up and make their days a little less lonely in the depths of the lockdowns.
And similar for me, I did not have a lot of socials. It's mostly from the Wikimedia channels that my viewers comes from, like different kinds. I see your follow-up question, Michelle, but I'm just first going to go to Lucy's second question here, because I think that sort of comes to the core of this. What is the benefit of doing live streaming rather than recording something and then uploading it? Why are you doing live streaming instead of that? And I think we can have different reasons for doing that. So it would be very interesting to see if we are all aligned or not.
I'm like, I could jump on this.
Yes, please go.
Yeah. So for me, it's mostly to do with both the connection, like being able to at any point in time swerve in the subject to what is actually asked, instead of like if you want to do a video, you have to plan it, and then it becomes what you've sort of figure out in your head is needed. Like, this is a structure, this is what I'm going to talk about, and this is how I will this is what I expect people will ask. But when you do a live editing, you can very much go with the flow of like, who's here right now? What do they want to know? And it really is two completely different things in my mind. And I like the communication, the conversation, the knowing that if someone asks a question and I respond to that, I've actually been helpful. So yeah, it's different. But I have to say also, I love when people do videos and upload videos when you're looking for a response, a reply to something, and someone's made like a 1.5-minute long video where you can go in, just get the answer. That's brilliant. Love the people who do that.
Mm-hmm.
Will I jump in? Will I
Sure.
say?
Yes.
For me, it was to show how messy it can be as an individual editor, because I think the problem that we suffer from sometimes with very streamlined videos is you find an article and you follow these steps and look, hey presto, at the end, look at this immaculate, beautiful, expanded article or whatever it is that you've done. Whereas one that sticks out in my mind was an article about an Irish guy called Eric Cross, brackets writer, because there's a number of Eric Crosses in the world. And I thought he was a straightforward Irish writer. I thought, this will take me 20 minutes, half an hour. I have an entry from the Dictionary of Irish Biography. This is fine. It turns out the man was a polymath and did all sorts of different things. And it was the one where there was a couple of people from the OpenStreetMap community in Ireland watching it, and they were just laughing at me because I kept going, what? Another? How is he doing another thing? he did it was during the war. Like, he started making shoes. No, he started making knitting needles out of spokes from bicycle wheels. And I was like, I can't cope with this man. And it just showed you that, I suppose, that even editors who are, creating an article a day or have, several hundred articles in English language Wikipedias can still get stumped or confounded, or think that I have this fantastic citation, and then you realize, oh, actually this isn't telling me what I wanted to tell me, and I need to go out and find more. So, and I think those are the most enjoyable streams for people for people actually just watching, as we say in English, like how the sausage is made. That it's not this beautiful kind of smooth workflow all of the time.
No, I have to agree with what you said about just the messiness of it all, and I think honestly the decision making process in my case, in terms of how to model a specific phenomenon, in terms of like lexicographic information, because a lot of this is largely unexplored in terms of how do we model lexemes to generate sentences. And very often, I wouldn't call it vacillation, but there'd often be times where I would openly debate to myself and I guess to the audience whether I should do things one way or the other. That sort of messiness is obviously something that I think a lot of people can relate to as those who edit Wikidata for themselves. And given the lack of precedent for modeling certain things, which is on its own, in some ways, a good thing, because if everything was set in stone as a pre-made video might indicate to someone, then that ends up restricting the possibilities that can be introduced and exploited for later on, and that's not something. And that increased possibility is something that we want to promote, and I think the open format of a live stream is good for that in a way that a recording isn't necessarily.
I feel so much empathy with you all and relate to everything what you say, because I done all of those things and felt all of those things. Especially the messiness. Anyone who's seen us edit Wikidata know that like modeling is hard, and having a few people discuss it meanwhile you're doing it is super helpful. Even if there's no one in chat, just being with my co-host Albin, talking about how do you think we should do this and search, it's so beneficial.
I would often stress, this is how I do it. This is my methodology. Other editors might have, experience may vary, which I think is rather important.
And this is a little bit harder on Wikidata because we try to get to some sort of like common data model. So it's also a lot of researching, like how have other people been doing this before, because that helps in querying afterwards if everyone did it the same. But sometimes you're the first in the field, because Wikidata, even if it's 11 years old, is still very young in what types of content we have in there. There's also something I think sometimes I'll go live because I don't have time to make a streamlined video, like the old quote, like, sorry, I wrote this long letter because I didn't have time to write a short one. You go out and you stream for half an hour, something that perhaps would be a 3-minute slick video, but coming up with the actual manuscript for that and then edit it would take even longer time. So that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You raised a point that I wanted to make, but I failed to make. Actually, it's sort of meta here, is that there's obviously a lot of things that I would want to make a point of bringing up in the middle of the stream, but I would never think to do it in a planned fashion. Like, that's not something that I would think if I was just writing out a script and recording it. But those come up organically, and they may lead to like a few minutes of a tangent afterwards, but they were important enough to have come up in the first place. So, and the live streaming format definitely promotes that. I agree 100%.
the live streaming doesn't require that very tight structure of like, you know, and like you said, also the cutting, the editing, I think that sometimes people might not be aware how much work goes into doing that sort of very tight video. Yeah. I was thinking about something that Rebecca said, and now I forgot it. Oh yeah. Yes, because you started the whole stream of consciousness thingy, and also the messiness, and that's also something that I think is very helpful when trying to reach new people, because something I realize is often when people want to get started, they tend to think that the only thing that sort of exists is to create new articles. So they come in and they go like, I want to create a new article about this person. How do I do that? And then it's very helpful to be able to direct someone towards watching someone create a new article in, live, not taking out the messy bits, because that makes it so much more easy to explain why this might not be the best way to get started, because you will face so many different things. Try instead like looking into different parts of what you do on Wikipedia and try doing those a few times. And I think that's so much easier when you direct someone towards actually following someone very experienced creating a new article. That makes it so much easier to like explain why I'm not trying to put you down. I'm not trying to say that this is very difficult and that you won't be able to do it. I'm just saying it might be easier to break it down into little pieces and start like, how do I add sources? What kinds of sources are good? Like just seeing, because that can be messy enough. Just trying to find sources to cover what you sort of go, okay, I know this about this person. Yeah, that doesn't matter. You like, how do I find a proper source for it, and how do I then add it, and so that becomes very helpful also, seeing the messiness to be able to explain why might there be better ways of starting up for someone new, and also to help explain like you're not bad at editing. If it took you like, I don't know, 20 hours to create your first full article from scratch, it didn't exist and now it exists, that is not bad. If you're very new to Wikipedia, that's good.
Very true. And we are also almost touching here on the question from Michelle, because she was asking, can you elaborate a bit on how you go about preparation, outreach, and follow-up? And we sort of touched that with like, I don't write full scripts for my things, but I have a general idea of what I want to convey in my stream. And how do you do it?
So for the streams that I do, they're typically divided into two parts. The first, for a 2-hour stream or so, the first half being actually editing Wikidata and showing the editing interface, and then the second half is actually writing code and going back to Wikidata if need be to adjust things so that the code works better. For this first part of editing Wikidata, there's probably going to be something interesting that I see someplace. There's again no formal planning. There was one stream where I just noticed that the foreign word of the day on the English dictionary was a term used in Norwegian for a tracksuit used when grilling, and I thought that was a hilarious term. So I thought, let's try to use that term in the stream. I did nothing else with that except to say, okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to make this happen. And so the first half of the stream that week was, yes, let's see if we can make this happen in some other language, and other languages in general, like other words for tracksuits. And then the rest of the stream sort of followed from there, as far as trying to get people engaged. Like, oh, you speak this language? Let's try to make this same term happen in this language in the most meaningful way possible. If something doesn't end up finishing within the 2-hour time span, then I try to ensure that at the end, especially if I get stuck in the middle of some code block, then I go back to the same channels in which I've advertised and post like, okay, this is after some amount of effort, here's what we got. And this happened with a few languages, but not the one that I was doing on stream. So yeah, I'd say that most of the stream most of my stream is done essentially winging it, if you will.
Yeah, I am very much another winging it person. seat of the pants fashion. What I would sometimes do is if I was really stumped, and especially in, you know, kind of towards the end of when I was kind of doing intensive streaming, it was at least twice, 3 times a week. I started to run out of my own kind of comfort zones, and I was like, "Hey, you know, what would you like me to see me editing?" And I would get some interesting examples. So food or customs from different countries as related to Ireland or something like that. Or then I'd look to, as I would do with social media for the affiliate here in Ireland, is there an anniversary today? Is it somebody's birthday? Is it a particular historical day? Is it international, you know, a Black Cat Appreciation Day or whatever silly day is floating around? Or I'd see what was trending on that particular day and see if there was something interesting that I could fold into it. But generally, the amount of preparation that I had was kind of minimal. I would try and find a few kind of jumping off source material, you know, so online resources that I could just very easily flip the screen and say, this is where I'm taking my information from. And mine were kind of slightly more short form. So I would go for, sometimes it would just be 20 minutes. Sometimes it would go up to 50 minutes, an hour. It would depend on kind of how the rest of the day was panning out for me. So I gave myself that flexibility in it. And people then, I would get different audiences based on how intensive it was. And also then you get kind of people coming on and dropping off and kind of different peaks and troughs. So I think in some ways being slightly more unpredictable probably meant that it wasn't an appointment for people, even if it was a particular day each week. But it meant that they were like, oh, you know, Rebecca might be doing something, so let's hop on type engagement.
Yeah, for me, it's also like part of what is very what attracts me to the streaming is that you can keep it very, very much more spontaneous. And so mostly we would just sort of outline what is the topic of the day. So me and Sophie that I'm streaming with, and we would maybe plan a bit in advance, sort of talking about what is it we would like to do, what do we feel would be fun or helpful or useful. But usually we were also trying to keep the preparations down. Again, trying to target reaching out to people who are very new. We actually wanted it to be as truthful as possible. Like, what do you actually, if you just want to start from scratch, to not do a lot of work beforehand and then again present this sort of polished image of what it actually is like. So we would keep it at a fairly like minimal level of preparations, and then do most of like, what do you face when you do this? Do that live. It's like, oh no, now I need to find this page. Where did I leave that? Oh, wait a minute, I know something about that. Okay, let's look for that. That was also that's also part of the fun, I think, and it is instructional for people to see that. So yeah, it's not the chef's like, oh, but I've already done that. Here we go.
That has happened to me sometimes, because sometimes I'm do very hard queries and I make sure that I actually know how to do them before, so I have a copy on a second screen so I can check, and sometimes I copy over it everything because I mess it up and I can't find where I mess it up. So that has happened a few times. And we're nearing the end here, so I just want to do a quick round here for anyone who's been watching us now and thinking, hey, maybe I should be streaming. Do you have any like small tip or encouraging words that you want to send with them that they can think about, like to get started or something?
Something I would say is like, make sure to make your threshold as low as possible. Like, when I started streaming, I went for like, what is the minimum viable product here? Like, what do I actually need to get started? Because I think that a lot of people will stop themselves in trying to go like, oh, well, people streaming, they have all these cool things and this is happening and this. It's like, but you don't need to start with that. Just do the basics. Like, you don't even need a starting screen. Like, just have an ending screen. Just make sure you have one screen, and that you can, and like you don't need the best camera or the best sound like mic or whatever. Just what do you actually need to get started if this is something that you would like to actually try, because otherwise you might get stuck in the preparations and never get started.
Rebecca?
Hard agree. That's it. You can get kind of, I don't have a ring lamp, or I haven't set up an extra mobile phone, so it's a nice stream of myself. I liked being slightly fuzzy and out of focus at times. The one thing I invested in was a good microphone, and I think for people who listen to podcasts and things like that, they do appreciate that, but I wouldn't say that you need that straight away. I'd say get into the comfort zone and then think about whether or not you want to invest in something like that.
I fully agree regarding super expensive equipment isn't necessary to start off, and you should definitely be flexible with what you would consider to be a productive session, for sure. And I'd also say that don't be afraid to get audience suggestions, whatever they may be. Your audience is going to be your best friend for the most part for the duration of the stream, and so if you are able to tailor your output to that audience, then all the better for you.
Great. And I think our time is up there. So thank you, Sandra, Rebecca, Mahir, for joining this stream, and thank you for everyone in the audience asking questions as well, keeping this live streaming. So that's meta almost here. So all right.
Thank you,
see you next
Jan.
Wikimania.
Yes,
Thank you so much, Jan.
Thanks.